I found a bank statement showing $15,000 spent on a secret apartment. I thought my husband's business trips were just work. Then I learned he was actually with my sister the whole time. My name's Lisa. I'm 35 and married to Tom. We've been together for 10 years, and people always said we were that perfect couple. We laughed a lot, traveled often, and seemed to share everything. But about a year ago, things started to shift. Tom got secretive with his phone. He took more business trips that lasted longer than before. He wasn't really there when we were together, like his mind was somewhere else. I told myself it was just work stress, that he'd come back to me. But deep down, I wasn't sure. Then Thanksgiving happened, and everything I thought I knew just stopped making sense. I got home later than usual that night. The hallway was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels different when you're alone. I found the mail sitting by the door, a small stack like always. Most of it was junk or bills I'd seen before. But one envelope caught my eye. It had no return address, just my name on it. I hesitated for a moment, then opened it. Inside was a bank statement. Not just any statement, but one showing a transfer. $15,000. To a rental agency. My heart hit my stomach hard. I read it again, thinking maybe I was missing something. No, it was right there. A big chunk of money sent out recently. I sat down on the couch, the paper trembling slightly in my hands. I thought about Tom. He never said a word about this. We share everything, or at least I thought we did. We live together, we split bills, talk about plans. But this? Nothing. I tried to make sense of it. Maybe it was for a friend or a family member. But no, the statement said it clearly, a rental company. An apartment. I kept staring at the numbers, the date of the transfer, the account names. All facts. No explanation. The room felt smaller suddenly. I wanted to call him, but I held back. What would I even say? Hey, why did you send 15 grand to rent a place I don't know about? It sounded crazy, but the idea that he had a whole other place, a secret one, was even crazier. I remembered the last few weeks. Nothing seemed off at first. Tom was tired, working late sometimes. I figured it was just stress. We hadn't fought much, but there was a quiet distance growing. I thought it was me, that I was just imagining things. This paper made me realize it wasn't just distance. It was something else. I folded the statement carefully and put it on the kitchen counter. I paced a little, my mind racing. What if he's staying at this other place? Why wouldn't he tell me? Was he seeing someone else? Was this about me at all? I heard the door open downstairs. Tom was home. I waited, trying to keep myself calm. When he walked in, he looked tired but smiled when he saw me. I forced a smile back, but inside, my chest was tight. Hey, long day, he said, dropping his bag by the door. Yeah, I said quietly. Then I asked, Tom, can we talk about something? He looked at me, a little wary. Sure, what's up? I wanted to ask about the apartment, the money, but the words got stuck. Instead, I said, I saw a transfer on a bank statement. To a rental agency. $15,000. His face changed, just a little. Not much, but enough. Oh, that, he said, avoiding my eyes. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. I didn't want to worry you. It's complicated. Complicated how? I pressed. He looked away, then back at me. It's a place for work. I didn't think it mattered. That's a lot of money, Tom. In a separate place? How long have you been paying for this? He hesitated. A few months. I felt a mix of anger and confusion. Why keep it a secret? He shrugged, but his voice was quiet. I thought I could handle it on my own. I stared at him, trying to find the truth in his eyes. I wanted to ask more, but I didn't. Instead, I just said, okay. He nodded, relieved. But I wasn't. The silence between us stretched, heavy and strange. I thought it was over. But the silence that followed said otherwise. That night, I waited until Tom got home. He was late, like usual, and I already had the bank statement in my hand. I didn't want to make a scene in front of the kids, so I asked him to come to the kitchen with me. When he sat down, I slid the paper across the table, watching his face closely. Why are we paying for an apartment? I asked, voice low but firm. The charge was clear, $15,000. It wasn't small change, especially not for something we didn't talk about. Tom looked away, fingers fiddling with his phone on the table like he wasn't even there. It's for business, he said finally, quick and clipped. No eye contact. His voice felt tight, like he was trying to get away from the conversation. But I wasn't buying it. Not yet. Business doesn't cost $15,000, I said, tapping the paper. You don't just drop that kind of money without telling me. I kept my tone steady, but inside, my heart was speeding up. I wanted to believe him, but his silence was louder than his words. He looked up then, eyes flickering with something I couldn't place. You wouldn't understand, he said, but it wasn't just the words. It was the way he said it, like I was supposed to accept not knowing. I stared at him, trying to read his face, but he was closed off. Try me, I said. Tell me what this is really about. He swallowed, jaw tight. For a moment, I thought he might finally break. But then he shook his head and stood up. It's complicated. Just trust me. His voice was softer now, almost pleading. I felt a mix of anger and something else, maybe hurt. Trust me. Those words hit harder than any fight. We were supposed to be partners in everything. But now, he was asking me to trust something I couldn't see. I didn't say anything. I just folded the paper and put it back on the table. The silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable. I wanted to press him more, but part of me knew it wouldn't help. He wasn't ready to share, and I wasn't sure I was ready to hear. What are you hiding, Tom? I finally said, voice quieter now, more tired than angry. He didn't answer. Instead, he walked away without looking back. I sat there for a long time, the statement on the table like a weight between us. My mind spun around the possibilities, none of them good. Was this really about business? Or was it something else? Something he was afraid to say aloud. I thought about the nights when he came home late, the phone calls he stepped outside to take, the distant look in his eyes. I wanted to believe he was just stressed, but the way he dodged my questions told me there was more. I didn't know what to do next. Should I push harder, demand answers? Or wait and hope he would open up? The doubt was gnawing at me, twisting the trust we built into something fragile. I looked at the clock. It was late, but sleep didn't come. The quiet of the house felt heavier now. I kept thinking about that apartment charge, about the secrets Tom was keeping. I thought it was over, but the silence that followed said otherwise. Tom's hands were shaking as he sat across from me at the kitchen table. I could see the tension in his jaw. The silence between us felt thick, like it was pressing down on my chest. I kept waiting for him to say something. Anything. But he just stared at the floor. Then, finally, he looked up, eyes glassy. It's not just business, he said, voice barely above a whisper. His words hit me like a punch. It's with your sister, Emily. I froze. The air left my lungs in a rush. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I stared at him, not sure if I heard him right. Emily? How could you? The words barely came out. I was gasping, trying to hold on to something real. Tom didn't say anything at first. His face was full of regret, but also something like defeat. He rubbed his forehead, then looked up again. I never meant for it to happen. It just did. I wanted to scream, but my voice was stuck somewhere deep inside. I could feel everything breaking apart at once. Trust, love, everything. I couldn't stop the tears that welled up in my eyes, but I wiped them quickly. I didn't want him to see me like that. How long? I managed to say after a moment. How long has this been going on? He swallowed hard and looked away. Almost 3 months. 3 months. I thought about all the times I trusted him, all the moments I thought we were okay. The dinners, the weekends, the quiet nights at home. And all the while, he was lying to me, lying to my sister. I felt numb, like I was watching this all from outside my body. The betrayal wasn't just from Tom. It was from Emily too. My own sister. I didn't know what to feel first, anger or hurt. Maybe both. Tom reached out his hand, but I didn't move. I didn't want to touch him. He looked desperate, but I was too broken to care. I'm sorry, he said again, but it felt empty. I wanted to ask so many things. Why? Did she know? Did she feel the same? Was it just a mistake for both of them? But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I stood up and walked to the window, staring out but not really seeing. The sky was dark, and the streetlights flickered. I could hear the quiet hum of the city, but inside, everything was loud. Tom stayed at the table, silent. I thought maybe he'd say something more, but he didn't. The room felt colder now, like the warmth had been sucked out. I thought it was over, but the silence that followed said otherwise. I sat on the edge of our bed, the phone trembling in my hand. I didn't want to call anyone, but I needed to hear a familiar voice. I dialed Sarah's number, fingers stiff, heart heavy. The line rang twice before she answered. Emily. Her voice was soft, uncertain, like she already knew something was wrong. I found out, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. About Mark. There was a pause. Then what? What happened? I swallowed hard. He's been lying to me. About everything. My voice cracked a little. I don't know who he really is. Emily, what are you talking about? Her tone sharpened, alarmed now. I took a deep breath, trying to explain without breaking down. I found messages, pictures, things I never expected to see. I don't even know if I can trust anything he said. There was silence on the other end. Then she said slowly, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I could hear the weight in her voice. The same weight I felt crushing me. I just needed to call someone. I'm packing a bag. I'm going to stay with you tonight. Of course, she said immediately. Come over whenever you want. I hung up, the phone still warm in my hand. I stood up and moved mechanically around the room, grabbing the first things I could think of. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop. I left out the things that reminded me of him. His toothbrush, his jacket, the photos on the wall. My hands shook as I zipped my bag shut. I felt numb, like my body had shut down, but my mind was racing. I needed space. I needed to get away from our home, from everything that reminded me of him. The drive to Sarah's was quiet except for the hum of the engine and the occasional sigh escaping my lips. I stared out the window, watching the street lights blur past. The question kept hitting me over and over. Did anyone else know? Had he told someone? Had he been living this double life in front of others? I couldn't imagine who, but the thought made my stomach twist. What if people had been watching me, waiting for me to find out? Or worse, pretending not to see? Sarah's house was a relief when I pulled up. Familiar, safe. She opened the door before I even knocked, her arms open like she could hold all my pain. I stepped inside, and for a moment, I let myself lean on her. I don't know what to do, I said quietly. I feel like I'm losing everything. She just nodded, pulling me into the kitchen and making tea without a word. We sat together, the silence heavy but comfortable. I wanted to tell her everything, but the words stuck. I was still trying to process it myself. The betrayal, the lies, the person I thought I knew wasn't real. I just keep thinking, I said after a while. Did anyone else know? Did he tell someone? Was I the last to find out? Sarah looked at me, her eyes soft but serious. I don't know, she said. But whatever happens, you're not alone. I nodded, grateful but restless. The quiet in the room made my thoughts louder. I kept turning over every detail, every conversation, trying to spot the signs I missed. I thought it was over, but the silence that followed said otherwise. I met Sarah the next day at a small coffee shop downtown. I wasn't sure if I wanted answers or just to confirm what I already felt. She looked uneasy the moment I sat down. There was a pause before she spoke, like she was trying to figure out how much to say. I've seen them together, she said finally, voice low. At that cafe near that apartment you mentioned. She glanced around, like she was afraid someone might hear. It's been going on a long time. I blinked. The words hit harder than I expected. 2 years. That's how long the affair had lasted, right under my nose. It wasn't just some recent slip-up or a moment of weakness. 2 years. I could feel my chest tighten. I wanted to ask how she knew, how often, if anyone else knew, but I couldn't find the words. Sarah shifted in her seat, biting her lip. I didn't want to tell you before. I wasn't sure what to do. And, well, I hoped it would stop. Her eyes met mine briefly, then dropped away. But it didn't. I didn't say anything for a moment. I stared at my coffee, suddenly bitter and cold. I thought about all those times we brushed off little things. The late nights, the unexplained texts, the times she said she was at work, but I never checked. I wanted to scream, but my voice felt stuck. So, you saw them together there, I said slowly, testing the words. How often? Too many times, she said quietly. Sometimes during the day, sometimes at night. I think sometimes they met there so no one would notice. Her hands trembled a little as she reached for her cup. I'm sorry, I should have told you sooner. I nodded, but it felt hollow. I wasn't sure where to put this anger. Was I mad at Sarah for waiting? At my partner for lying? At myself for not seeing it? The betrayal stung in all directions. I don't understand, I said after a while. How did no one say anything? How did this happen for so long without me knowing? Sarah shrugged, but her face was tight. People don't want to get involved. And maybe you didn't want to see. That line hit me harder than I thought it would. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had been looking the other way without realizing it. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I wanted to ask more, to get every detail, but I also didn't want to hear any more. We need to figure out what to do, Sarah said, breaking the silence. But you have to be careful. They don't want anyone finding out. I looked up and met her eyes. There was a seriousness there that made my stomach twist. This wasn't just a secret anymore. It was something dangerous, something that could ruin everything. I thought about the apartment, the cafe, the hidden meetings. 2 years of lies. I felt like I was standing in the middle of a storm, but no rain was falling yet. Just the quiet before it all broke. When I left the cafe, my mind was racing. What else were they hiding? How much had I missed? I felt betrayed not just by the person I loved, but by everyone around me. It was like the ground shifted beneath my feet, and I was still trying to find balance. I wanted to believe it was over. I wanted to think this was just a terrible mistake that could be fixed. But the silence that followed said otherwise. What else had they hidden from me? I told them I needed to meet, both of them, in person. No texts, no calls, just one conversation. They agreed, though I could tell they weren't happy about it. I wanted answers, and I wasn't leaving without them. When we sat down, I kept my voice calm. I said, I want the truth. All of it. No hesitation, no room for lies. Tom looked away first. Emily's hands were clenched on her lap. They both looked tired, like they'd been carrying this for a while. Tom started, saying they'd taken multiple trips together, secret trips. Places I never knew about. He didn't even try to sugarcoat it. They'd been planning a future. A life. Without me. I felt my stomach twist, like the floor was moving under my feet. I blinked, trying to hold myself steady. How many times? I asked. Tom said more than a handful. Emily nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. We didn't want to hurt you, she said. That line hit harder than anything else. Like they thought I was some fool who wouldn't understand. I didn't say anything at first. Just sat there, trying to breathe. The room felt small, heavy, like the walls were closing in. I thought about all the little moments I'd missed. The times I'd asked where they were and got some vague answer. The weekends that suddenly became busy. They'd built a whole other life, and I was the last to know. I asked, was it just the trips? Or more? There was a long pause before Emily answered. Plans. We talked about moving in together, maybe even getting married someday. It was like a punch to the gut. They were serious. Serious enough to think about leaving me behind. I looked at them both, trying to find something familiar in their faces. But it was gone. Replaced by guilt and maybe a little fear. I didn't want to hate them. I just wanted to understand how we got here. How I hadn't seen it coming. Tom said. We didn't want to make it real until we were sure. We thought maybe it would pass. But it didn't. Not even close. I swallowed hard. The quiet between us was loud. I could feel everything I'd been holding back start to bubble up. Anger, betrayal, sadness. But I kept my voice even. Why tell me now? I asked. Emily looked down. Because we can't keep lying. Not anymore. I nodded slowly. Okay, I get that. But inside, I was breaking. I realized I had to decide what to do next. Stay and try to fix something that might be gone, or walk away and start over. I didn't know where to go from here. The ground had shifted, and I was left standing in the middle of the mess. I thought it was over, but the silence that followed said otherwise. When I got home that evening, the house was quieter than usual. Tom was sitting in the living room, eyes on his phone like he was waiting for something. I shut the door behind me without a word. I felt the weight of the papers in my bag, heavy in a way I hadn't expected. I didn't want to say much, just get it over with. I dropped the bag on the couch and pulled out the separation papers. He looked up at me then, a flicker of something in his eyes, maybe regret, maybe fear. I didn't care. Not anymore. I'm leaving, I said, voice steady but tight. I handed him the papers. You chose her. Now live with the consequences. He blinked, like he wasn't sure he heard me right. Then his mouth moved, trying to form words, but nothing came out at first. Finally, he said, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I shook my head slowly. Sorry doesn't fix this, Tom. It never did. I sat down across from him, watching as he stared at the papers like they were some kind of punishment he didn't deserve. Maybe he didn't, but I did. He looked up, and I caught the way his eyes searched mine, maybe for forgiveness or maybe for a way back. But I felt nothing for him now. Not really. Just a quiet certainty that I couldn't stay. You don't get to apologize now, I said. Not after everything. I gave you chances, more than I should have. But I'm done. My voice was calm, but inside, I felt a hard knot that wouldn't untie itself. He swallowed hard, then nodded. I understand. It sounded hollow, and I knew it was. But I didn't want to drag this out. I stood up and walked to the door. I paused and looked back at him. I hope you figure out what you really want. Because I'm done waiting. He didn't say anything else. Just sat there, the papers in his lap, like they were the last thing holding him to something he'd lost. I closed the door softly behind me and didn't look back. The quiet in the house felt different now, like it was waiting for something to change. Outside, the air was cool, but it didn't matter. I wasn't sure what came next. I wanted to feel relief, maybe a little freedom. But all I felt was the weight of the unknown pressing down on me. I thought I was ready to move on, to start over. But standing there, I realized I didn't have a clear path yet. I didn't know what my next step was. I just knew I couldn't stay, and that was enough for now. I moved into Sarah's spare room just over 3 weeks ago. It's not much, but it's quiet, and it feels like a fresh start. I still remember packing the last of my things into boxes in our old place, the air thick with that strange mix of relief and regret. Filing for divorce felt like the final break, like I was closing a door I'd been standing in for years, unsure if I'd ever step through. Living with Sarah is different in ways I didn't expect. She's been calm, mostly, giving me space without asking too many questions. I think she knows I need to figure things out on my own. The spare room is small, but it's mine. The first few nights, I barely slept. I kept waking up, expecting to hear Tom's voice or Emily running through the hallway. Now it's quieter, but sometimes I catch myself looking around, half expecting to see them there. I cut all contact with Tom and Emily the day I left. No calls, no texts. It was the only way I could start to breathe again. At first, I thought maybe I'd feel better if I told them everything, but I realized that would only drag me back. So I shut the door on that part of my life. It's hard not to wonder how they're doing, but I try not to. That's not my story anymore. Sarah and I have settled into a routine. We share meals sometimes, but mostly, we keep to ourselves. It's strange to live with someone else again after so long alone with Tom. I find myself thinking about what I lost, but also about what I'm slowly building. Each day is a little bit easier. I'm starting to feel less like a ghost in my own life. There are moments when the silence feels heavy, like it's pressing down on me. I'll be sitting in the kitchen, and a memory will hit me hard. The way Tom laughed, or Emily's voice calling from the other room. Those moments come uninvited and shake something loose inside me. But then I remind myself why I'm here. I remind myself that this is the only way forward. Filing for divorce was complicated. The paperwork was overwhelming, but I wanted to get it done quickly. It felt like the last official step to untangle myself from years of shared life. I didn't tell Tom when I filed. I didn't want to give him the chance to convince me otherwise. I had to be firm, even if it hurt. Some nights, I sit on the edge of the bed in Sarah's room and wonder if I'm doing the right thing. I think about the future, and it's unclear. But I know I can't go back to the way things were. Not after everything. I'm tired of pretending everything is okay when it's not. Living here with Sarah has its own challenges. We're not close, and I'm careful not to overstep. But there's a quiet support that I didn't expect. She doesn't push me to talk, but she's there when I do. That's enough for now. I'm grateful for it. It's strange how small changes can feel so big. Moving a few boxes, sleeping in a different bed, not answering the phone when it rings with Tom's number. These things add up. They remind me I'm reclaiming myself, piece by piece. I still feel raw. Some days, the weight of everything presses down on me. But I'm learning to stand again. I'm learning to live without the constant noise of the past. It's not easy, and I'm not sure I'm ready to be fully free. But I'm getting there. I don't know what comes next. I don't have all the answers. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm moving towards something. Even if it's just a quiet room and a slow, steady breath. I thought the hardest part was leaving, but maybe the hardest part is what comes after. I thought it was over. But the silence that followed said otherwise. I'm focused on moving forward now. The betrayal from Tom and my sister still hurts, but I'm learning to set boundaries and respect myself more. It's hard not to replay everything in my head, but I try not to get stuck there. Tom is with Emily, and honestly, that's their problem now. I don't want to waste my energy on what they're doing. It's like I'm reclaiming my space, piece by piece. I started therapy a few weeks ago, and it's helping me see things differently. Some days are better than others, but I'm trying to be patient with myself. I didn't realize how much I lost until I began to find myself again. It feels strange, but also kind of freeing. I'm learning to trust myself again, even if it's slow. Healing isn't a straight path, and I still have moments where everything weighs down on me. But I'm here, taking that first step towards something better. I don't know what the future holds with Tom or my sister, and for now, I don't want to know. I just want to keep building my life on my terms, without anyone else's drama pulling me back. It's quiet, but it's mine. I thought it was over. But the silence that followed said otherwise. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's to trust yourself first. Sometimes the people closest to us show sides we never expected. It's hard to admit, but those gut feelings, those little alarms, are there for a reason. Don't brush them off just because you want to believe the best. Your peace and dignity matter more than holding on to something that's breaking you down from the inside. I spent too long trying to convince myself it would get better. I told myself I was overreacting or being paranoid. But deep down, I knew something was off. Walking away wasn't easy. It felt like failing, like admitting I wasn't strong enough to fix things. But really, it was the bravest thing I did. Leaving meant I chose myself over the pain and confusion. If you're in a spot where you're doubting someone you care about, don't ignore it. It's not weakness to protect your heart. It's the opposite. It's strength. Life's too short to stay stuck in a place that chips away at who you are. You deserve to feel safe, respected, and whole. So, if you're thinking about leaving but scared to take that step, know this: leaving does not mean you lost. It means you're brave enough to start fresh. And sometimes, that's exactly what you need to finally find peace.